because when I saw the cast, I was like, oh, we doing this.
Oh, yes,
like,
we are.
What's up, y'all? It's Karma, aka the Blurred Girl. And I don't know if you realize this or not, but last week the CW premiered the reboot of The 4400, the series about a group of people who disappear and are suddenly transported into the future to 2021. Now, I got a chance to sit down and talk to one of the stars of the show, Brittany Adebumola, about her role as Shanice, a happily married mom to a new baby girl who, on her way to a new job, one day suddenly vanishes. Welcome. Thank you for talking to me. I'm very curious if you were a sci-fi fan growing up, and were you a fan of the original series that came out before 4400?
It's funny. I've had this question come up a few times, and when I was younger, I didn't realize that I was into sci-fi, but like I love Marvel now, realizing that is definitely sci-fi. Like I love the Marvel universe, love the Avengers. I also was like a huge fan of like Arrow and the Flash. But in terms of like the older stuff, the stuff that like comic book lovers like geek over, I'm not a huge sci-fi head in that way. And I wasn't familiar with the series prior to auditioning for it. I didn't actually start watching it until after I booked the role, just so I could understand the premise of the show, and also like see, you know, who the new characters are sort of inspired by.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone in the 4400 is from somewhere else. Shanice, your character, is the first character we meet in the series and the first one that we actually see taken. What time period is she from? What is she leaving behind?
She is from 2005. She's actually from Detroit. So that's home for her. And, you know, she's leaving behind her husband, her 4-month-old daughter, her job at this corporate law firm, and she's really trying to climb up the ladder there and become a partner at this law firm. So she had a lot of stuff going for her. She was a career woman, and she's also, you know, a new mom trying to figure out motherhood and juggle the two of them while grappling with like the sacrifice that requires. And then she gets snatched and then dropped into the present, and she comes to realize that, you know, the life that she left behind isn't the same life that she's about to confront, and that her daughter is now 16 years old, and she missed out on 16 years of her daughter's life. And her husband is remarried. So despite all of that, she really fights to reconnect with her family, even though a lot of things are completely out of control, and it's really in her daughter's hands and in her husband's hands as to whether or not they want to reconnect with her. So this woman who's used to like getting things done and being in control and, you know, just being this go-getter, she finds herself in this really vulnerable and sort of kind of helpless place, and it's just like everything just kind of happening to her. So we see her try to navigate that throughout the series.
It's really refreshing to see a Black woman character with such agency on a show, especially a science fiction show. What are some of the things that you love about Shanice that we might not see right away?
That you may not see right away. I mean, it's very obvious that she's bold. It's very obvious that she's bold. It's her first day back to work, and homegirl is wearing a bright red suit to this law firm where her boss doesn't even like her like that. But I think there's also a very vulnerable side to her. I think she loves she loves her community. She's all about empowering, you know, herself. She's a lawyer. She knows her rights. She knows, you know, when somebody is crossing the line, crossing the boundaries, whatever. She knows how to speak up for herself. And I think she has a strong desire to empower the people around her in her community by organizing protests, helping other people to uplift their voices, being an advocate for the 4400, and making sure that the individuals who are, you know, being detained alongside her know their rights and have someone fighting for them, and know their worth. And there's also, this really vulnerable side to her when it comes to her daughter. She struggles with motherhood initially. She goes through postpartum depression. And for the first few months of her daughter's life, the whole time she's contemplating whether it was a mistake to take on this responsibility, knowing that she's trying to be partner in a few years. And she realizes that, or she thinks at the time, that she maybe can't have both. You can't be a career woman and you can't be a mom at the same time. And she really struggles with that. So fast forward to 16 years, and there's a lot of shame and guilt that she feels now, seeing her 16-year-old daughter, who she's had no part in raising, nurturing, has had no influence on, really, besides just her DNA. And I think that it kills her. It kills her to see it, and it kills her to feel it. So, but then again, she's a fighter. So she's going to fight to try to reconnect with her daughter.
And speaking of family, the cast really felt like a family when I saw y'all in the junket. So I'm curious, was it like a family on set? And who else's story do you love watching on the show? Who else's journey do you love watching on the show?
We're definitely like a family, and we all clicked pretty quickly. I think like we hadn't met each other prior to, starting filming. I remember we had like a Zoom table read, and that was our first time that actually seeing everybody's face, like in these little boxes. It was like, oh, okay, this is the cast. Cool. And then we all went out to dinner, and it was a great time. And we all went to the beach together. We built a fire together. So yeah, it is very much, it feels like a family, and it's really special because all of us are most of us are fairly new to the TV and film industry. For a lot of us, this is either our first project, or our first TV show, or our first big TV show having a big part in it. So it's really awesome for us to all sort of be on a similar playing field and be able to go on this journey and experience this incredible thing and like make this incredible art together.
Was there another character on the show who has just got a really amazing journey that you've been watching besides yourself?
I think LaDonna's character, she evolves really beautifully and gracefully, and she sort of steps into her power. Throughout the series. So that's like, I'm trying not to spoil nothing.
I know.
But I think, yeah, LaDonna, the way that she sort of steps into herself is really beautiful. And also Claudette is another badass character. So I can't wait for people to see her unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did mention powers, so I will bring this up. Everybody knows that some people come back with powers. I will not ask you who gets what power, things like that. I'm not going to get you into trouble. But I do want to overall ask, because some people who were not familiar with the previous 4400 are like, oh, it's another superhero show. Would you describe this as a superhero show?
I wouldn't say it's a superhero show at all. The show is grounded in these human beings sort of dealing with this really strange circumstance. The powers happen to some of us, but it's not like suddenly we're all superheroes and we're all fighting the good fight and all of that. Not everybody deals with these powers the same. Some people don't want it, some people do, some people are like, what is this power? And there some people try to harness it, some people are just like, I don't want any parts of it. But the story isn't centered around these powers. This is just something that kind of happens to these people. The show is centered around these human beings that are trying to grapple with this really strange circumstance and sort of find unity and solidarity with each other. in trying to achieve that goal. It's about the relationships that they form with each other. But then the sci-fi elements are really cool.
They are.
It's like the rainbow sprinkles on top of the cake.
No, it absolutely is. And it's interesting because science fiction over the past few years has really been the vehicle for telling the world about some real life Black history. I'm thinking, of course, of things like Watchmen and, Lovecraft Country and stuff like that. So how does the 4400 fall into that category? Because when I saw the cast, I was like, oh, we doing this.
Oh, yes, we are. Yeah, I think what's special about the show and the way they've decided to tell these stories and the characters they've decided to put at the forefront of this story is just like the multi-generational sort of aspect of the show. The audience is going to be able to get to time travel with each of these characters and understand where it is that they're coming from, the 1920s, 30s, 50s, 2005, 2015. And you'll really get to see what that world was like then for each of these characters. And I feel like through looking through the lens of these characters in those specific times, you can't help but reflect on how we got to where we are in the present day. And how far we've come, what we have to celebrate, all this Black excellence that we see now compared to even in 2005. There was no Black president, but Shanice didn't know of a Black president.
No,
there was no Michelle Obama.
Yeah, I was looking that up. Katrina was 2005. It just blew my mind that I didn't realize how long ago it was.
And so much has happened in that time. So imagine what it's like, stepping into 2021 as a character that's from the 1920s, a queer character from the 1920s, a disabled person from, the 70s. So the show, I feel like encourages people to sort of like reflect on how we got to where we are, and how much further we have to go. It makes me more interested in this country's history, and it makes me want to hear more of the stories that we don't get taught in our high school history classes or middle school history classes, and the people that we don't get to really hear from in those settings.
Right, the voices that like we know that we were there. And that's the part that's so crazy. It's like, oh, there were no Black people there. Yes. We were there. Nobody asked them any questions, but we were right there.
Yep.
So that is what's amazing. What is something else that you really want people to take away from the 4400?
I hope people become a little bit more interested in, this country's history, and interested in, learning about sort of people throughout history that have been marginalized or just overlooked, who have been such integral parts of moving our culture forward, and just integral parts of history. I also hope people feel really seen by all of these characters. Every character is so different and so unique and distinct, and not just because of the time period, but like just personality wise, they're just all very different. So I think there's something for everyone there, and I just hope people feel seen by the characters' journeys, and I just hope that it resonates with folks.